Good morning, Miami, and happy Sunday. And welcome to another one of my little gems that I find in all these magical Miami locations to meditate in. You can see I'm sitting right in front of the bay back there. But today I thought I would take a moment to just chat with you because with this really exciting end of the year Babson College sponsored VentureWomen event called VentureWomen, we're going to be holding it at their Women's Innovating Now Lab on Thursday, 7 o'clock, 1200 Brickell Avenue. I've had a few people ping me on Instagram asking, what's the history? What's the story? What is VentureWomen? Why VentureWomen? So I thought I'd take a few moments today quietly in the park and just share with you what up about VentureWomen. Some of you know the story already, so tune out if you don't want to listen. But about 6 years ago, I had a day that was a banner day for me. I was working on my own startup at the time. Some of you may not know, but I had worked on and raised funding for a good news platform that was going to riff off of Anne Frank's belief that everyone has inside of him or her a piece of good news. And Good News 360 was about all of the degrees of good news that exist in the world. And that very day, I'd had a chance to do one of the interviews with one of my sheroes that rocked my world. 2 interviews that day. One was Jane Goodall, and the other one was Arianna Huffington. And when I sat down after the interviews in the front of the building at the New World Symphony where this event was taking place, where I was able to speak with them, I sat down next to a woman, and she literally looked at me after about 5 seconds and said, I don't know what you're on, and I don't know what you're having, but I want some of it. I was clearly just vibing with a really great happiness and joy and excitement that what I was dreaming was coming into iteration, and that I had just nailed 2 really important interviews, and Jane Goodall had even agreed to lead the nature channel that was going to be part of Good News 360. It was going to be Walk with the Animals, and she was going to use her Roots and Shoots program as part of it. So there were lots of pieces of my startup on the media level that were already aligning. But Sandra looked at me and she said, tell me more about it, and then tell me more about you. And I shared with her my background from having been in the global corporate television space and really working at a high level in the movie studios before that, and then getting out of that and moving into my own strategic branding, marketing, and consulting business, and really having my life start to unfold and move toward a lot more meaningful social impact kind of projects. And that's when things like the Gates Foundation work in Ethiopia appeared on my radar, when the Venezuelan vote initiative, when the president was still Hugo Chavez, and a group of Venezuelans who I know and love very much approached me, and we raised more than $250,000 for Venezuelans to be able to take 10 chartered planes back and forth from Miami on the day of the Venezuelan election. So projects like that, projects that had real heart in them, and then eventually others unfolded, like the World Happiness Summit. But in my conversation with Sandra, I then learned that she was a angel investor. She was an MIT grad. She had been moved to Miami via Singapore, so Boston and Singapore were her startup spaces she was used to moving in. And she asked me, Suzanne, where are there other women like you, or me, or us, and is there a tribe? And whether or not they're entrepreneurs, are they women who are on the rise, women who are looking to really what she had done with me, which was share in my joy and want some of it. And so we, throughout the events, we had originally some support from an amazing female leader here in Miami, Carolina Pina, who was at the Northwestern campus for Kellogg at the time. And we started the initiative there, and then we started bouncing around town from Center for Social Change to Rocker Labs to many other locations. And Sandra, unfortunately, passed away in 2017, 2 years ago, 47 years old. leaving behind 2 identical twins. Took the air out of my, steam out of my engine, the air out of my wings, and I only just relaunched it this summer, and it's been received with this huge amount of warmth and receptivity. And I now have also shifted a lot. I am now actually certified, trained in teaching in mindfulness and the evidence-based practice of heart math, which is about heart rate variability, helping people deal with work burnout and focus and attention training at work, and creating corporate cultures that are more mindful and conscious. So as all of that is aligned, as I've relaunched VentureWomen, people have shown up. And people are learning that part of what I teach in this networking experience is for us all to become more aware of our unconscious biases. Our unconscious bias as women against women, as men against women. There is a 2-second behavior we engage in when we meet a new woman that we don't even know we do. And it is that when I meet a new woman or others meet new women, we immediately start at the top of the head and go to their toes and go from the toes to the top of the head, and we make a series of judgments. We craft a series of conclusions, and we draw deductions about who they are. And quite often they ping and trigger us around topics of competition. Is this person competition for me, for my resources? Is the old primal way that we engaged with women on the competitive level? Could she be competing with me for my mate, for the food that I want to access, for the roof over my head? And now it might be for the role that I have in the world or in this room. Now it might be for clients. Now it might be that we even find that we're jealous because we want her shoes or her bag or her nail polish. And this unconscious bias lives actively below the line of awareness. Our awareness is like a great big circle, and only a third of what we are aware of, or how we engage with the world, the lens that we wear, the perspective that we walk into the world with, is known to us. Below that line of awareness, 2/3 of our interaction with the world is unconscious and unaware to us. Mindfulness helps us eke that little line further and further down. We build greater inner awareness. We build greater emotional regulation around how we're engaging. And then we also create greater situational awareness, and we become more aware of how we're engaging and how we're deducing those things about others. So my mission, as we've watched Me Too happen since the time I began VentureWomen, since the time Sandra passed away, and since I've reiterated from not only the corporate space, then my first startup that failed because I returned the money that I had actually been able to raise because my mother got cancer. And as I bounced between Miami and Michigan and Ethiopia and was doing the side hustle to raise the funds for my startup, when my mom passed, I got adrenal burnout. And all of that brought my tush to the cush, and it's how I became more mindful, as well as became the mindful entrepreneur. So my iteration of how to dare greatly, fail mindfully, and pivot positively is based on the fact that I know what it's like to raise almost $250,000, and then I know what it's like to walk away from that dream. And I'm on that journey of now iterating again, pivoting, doing it differently. And it's coming out through things like the VentureWomen engagements, Mindful Mornings Miami, my radio show, my new teaching platform, which will be on the Zoom platform of meditation.live, which is the new startup by Julie and Dee Sharma, who are transplants from San Francisco here. I will be one of their new teachers. So it's a great lesson, by the way, for any of you in the entrepreneurial world, that just because what you think is going to happen and you have to shift it for, in my case, life circumstances, any reason, the sooner you can get unstuck and detangled from what you thought it needed to be, to let it settle down and then let it rise up to be what it's meant to be. I'm a perfect example of exactly that. So join me if any of this appeals to you. We do welcome men, by the way. We would love it if men would come. We would love it if men would learn that they too have an unconscious bias of how they assess and deduce and conclude and judge about women. And interestingly enough, men have benefited greatly in the eons of time by this competitive nature that women have honed. We women amongst we women, tend to be highly competitive. We've mastered that as a skill, and men benefit from that. Some men in relationships even feed that kind of thing, and those of you who are nodding your head right now know exactly what I'm talking about. The idea of women having to compete with other women for a man in the room. And until we bring light and awareness and get these things to move above that line of awareness and come into our conscious, oh, this is what's occurring here. Or wow, in a city like Miami, there are a lot of women vying for men's attention. Move to Anchorage, Alaska, ladies, and there are more men than there are women, and you will be a luxury, not a commodity. So it all depends on the context. But the concept of the competition is something that lives within us. And if we are going to walk in the way I believe is accurate, which is that the future is female, not to in any way knock men out of a role of leadership, but move everything into co-creation, co-leadership, and equal balance, then we need to learn about these things that we're unaware of. And having these connections during Venture Women where we practice mindfulness, we listen to the wise woman sitting in the front of the room who shares with us her challenges of having dared greatly, failed mindfully, and pivoting positively. And then we actually sit with each other in the mastermind hot need, hot lead breakout. And we hear one person who's got a really burning necessity inside of her or him at that moment. And with the time integrity of only 3 minutes to share our challenge, everyone who is in your circle, it will turn out that night, become your immediate board of advisors. And as an advisory board, they are there to give you a lead. They are there to give you a contact. They are there to offer from their own lived experience what worked for them. They're not there to give you therapy. It is not a therapy session. It's a hot need, hot lead session. So when you come, you will consciously connect. You will mindfully practice. You will learn from a wise woman at the front of the room, and you'll find out there's a lot of them in the front of the room, and you may be one of those wise women. And then you'll also have the mastermind breakout around hot need, hot lead. So if any of this appeals to you, and you feel called to bring your heart and your head to the work, the mission, the startup, the corporate world, or the ladder that you're climbing, and you believe that it can be done in a way that is more mindful and more conscious, then come. That's what Venture Women is. The why is because I have this crazy community organizer that lives in me, and I love to connect IRL in real life with people. It's the reason I do Venture Women. It's the reason I teach once a month at the Sacred Space, and we'll be announcing some new exciting ways we're going to package that for 2020, and it'll have a little bit of a feel and a flavor of what it's like to be in an interview setting with me during Mindful Mornings Miami, even though you can't come into the studio. And in that role of being a community organizer, I fund all of it on my own. I engage volunteers, and occasionally we'll spend a few bucks to get some staff to support me, as well as some social media help there. So whatever comes in goes out. So help me or help yourself. Connect consciously, and let's shift what it means to consciously connect on a mindful basis around business in Miami, so that as my friend, whose sense and soul I can feel and hear out here on the Sunday morning in a mindful way to start the day, Sandra is with me, and she would be happy to know that this is being relaunched and that we're committing to helping women be courageous enough to let their hearts be wide open as they're being bold to move forward and save the Western world, save the world, be the Western women that are saving the world. And I would throw this at the end, not to be morbid. Why does that matter? Because, my friends, we're in the sixth extinction. Every 20 minutes, a species is going extinct on this planet. Why does it matter? Because I hope you build a business that's BOGO, buy one, get one. Because I hope you have a give-get philosophy, like Patagonia, that gives a portion of what you earn, or maybe you recycle the fabrics, by the way, Patagonia, that are the products. Maybe you upcycle the fashion that you use.